Hello, my name is Mike Cropsey, and today I'm going to do a quick start guide to help you get started running Ansible with a basic Ansible playbook. The reason I wanted to do this was just to, there's a lot of guides out there that show you how to do this. Hopefully this one is just going to bring you the very basics to get started with some examples. Now, on my GitHub page, I have my README file really has everything you need to get started, run the commands, all here in this one file. And these are the files that I'm going to have you clone onto your system. And the lab environment is going to be set up with 3 Linux servers. I'm going to have 2 actual Red Hat Enterprise Linux servers, and then 1 running Rocky Linux 10. Rocky Linux is just a binary equivalent of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. The reason I chose Red Hat is it tends to be the de facto standard when it comes to running enterprise Linux. And this does not mean you have to run Ansible on Red Hat. In fact, I have my Ubuntu-based Raspberry Pis in the background running Kubernetes and some other things, Cloudflare, tunnel connector, all that type of stuff. And when I update those servers, I actually run my control node from my Mac, and my inventory files and everything there are on the Mac. You can run it from Windows or any version of Linux, Ubuntu. Just to keep it simple, I am running it all on Red Hat. And the servers, there's 3 servers. The setups, you're going to have what's called an Ansible user defined on each system, and you're going to have that Ansible user in the wheel group, which was going to allow them to run as sudo, basically run as root with root privileges. Now I am going to set this up so that you can authenticate to each server from the control node without being prompted for a password for just the login. I am going to, however, require a password for the become sudo password. The reason I'm doing that is I want to demonstrate how to set up the vault. And all the vault is just an encrypted file that you reference from your playbook. But I want to point that out because if you do use passwords and you are prompting for credentials, the best way to save those credentials, if you aren't running something like CyberArk as a privileged account manager or some program like that, is to use the Ansible Vault so those passwords are kept safe. So let's get started here. First thing I'm going to want to do is, number 1, I am not logged in my control node as Ansible user, so I'm going to rectify that now. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the Ansible user is installed on all 3 servers and that I am a member of the wheel group. If you do not, you'll want to do a user add and then add them to the wheel group. That is already done. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up passwordless login. You're going to want to generate a key pair, copy the public keys to the 2 servers you are managing. I am going to do that now. Oops. I'm just going to use the default password, or not default password, the default file name. I am not going to use a password phrase, so just enter for blank. I am then going to copy these, copy the public keys to the remote servers. You will be prompted because you have not set this up yet, so this should be the last time you will have to enter the user ID and password together. Now we're going to do to 96. And now we're going to test to make sure that we can run commands remotely without being prompted. And I'm going to run the host name. It should return me the host name of the other server because it should run on that remote server without a prompt. It did. I will now do it for 96. That is working. Next in line, we have that set up. I want to make sure Ansible is actually installed. Right now, I know it's not, so I'm just going to do a sudo dnf install Ansible. It's Ansible Core, not just Ansible, although you do have to spell sudo correctly. We will install that. Verify it is installed. It is. Now you can see I have a command here so that you could clone these files so you don't have to edit them yourself. YAML files, in particular the Flatpak install. That is my playbook. They're very syntax specific, so better you just download it from my GitHub site than try to type all those commands manually, because if you don't get the spaces and indenting all right, you'll be getting errors. So let's install Git. Okay, Git's installed. I am now going to copy this from the GitHub. This is a public repository, so you should be able to just look up this README file and copy that. And now I should see those files on the system. If I cd into that directory, I have my Ansible config. Not much in there. You could get by without this, although it is nice having the inventory file defined, so you don't have to call that out when you run your playbook. I have a basic inventory file. This is going to be referenced in your playbook. Normally, you're going to have a lot more in here. You're going to have variables. You're going to have sections. You can have sections for Windows, sections for Linux servers, maybe different versions of Linux servers, and you will call each section out in your playbook. But in this case, all my tasks are just going to be running on my Linux servers, and these are the only nodes I have. So it's very, very simple. The next, I do have a secrets file. If you run Ansible Vault, create, oops, that's just secrets 2. And I'm just going to put anything. I'm just going to put, I'm just going to put something in here just to demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if I cat it, it's encrypted, right? But right now, because you downloaded my real secrets file, it's not encrypted because it hasn't been encrypted by Vault yet. I didn't create it with Vault. I created it with VI so I could throw it up on the internet. Very basic. All it has is the Ansible become password, but we don't want that in straight text. It is in YAML format. 3 dots are how you begin any YAML file. The 3 dashes, rather. So now I'm going to run Ansible. Rather than create, I'm going to do encrypt. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Dot. And I'm going to get rid of that secrets2 file because that's going to be annoying. So now if I try to cat, it's encrypted. In order to view it, I have to use the vault password. I could also edit it if I want to change the password. That would work as well. So now my vault is set up properly. Now let's just take a look quickly at my playbook. That is the only other file here besides the README file, which the README file is just this with all the instructions and setup for your convenience. But the YAML file formatting is important. These spaces are just that, spaces. Do not use a tab. Very picky. YAML files are very picky on syntax. You want the 3 dashes here to start. Might work without that. I've had it work without that, but best practice, have those 3 dashes. You're going to see here I'm calling out host, and it's managed nodes. You've seen that in the inventory file. Managed nodes was the section that had my IPs for this section of the playbook. You might have multiple sections. One section may call out some Windows hosts, some Linux hosts. For this demo, we only got one set of hosts. This is where we're going to call out where the vault file is. It's basically a file with variables in it. The variable is Ansible become password. And then I'm going to run 3 different tasks. The first one is going to install something called Flatpak. Flatpak is a package manager that is designed to be able to run on whether it's Ubuntu, SUSE, Red Hat. It installs those packages in a sandboxed environment. The disadvantage of them is obviously all the packages are going to take up space because it's not going to share libraries. Even though you might have one file that can be used by 20 different programs, that file is going to be on there 20 times. The advantage, though, is that it's going to be more secure. It's not going to have as much access to the file system, like if you used DNF to install the system, the file. It is not used to install system files. It's just used to install programs. Like in this case, I'm going to use Flatpak to install GIMP, which is a graphics editor. After I install Flatpak using the built-in DNF module, I am going to use the built-in command module to run the Flatpak commands, now that Flatpak is installed, to set up my FlatHub repository. Now, what is a built-in command? Using it this way is nothing more than just doing the equivalent of going to the CLI and running the commands. Flatpak is now a command you can run in the CLI. There are other ways to do this. Notice here I have changed when false. This is because let's say I've installed 20 packages and I use the command module each time. Every time I run it, even if those programs are already previously installed and there's no updates to be done, it's going to say it changed something, even though it did nothing. So I put this as false, otherwise you're going to get all this false information. If it's important that you have that, you know what's changed and what's not, the best thing to do is to go to Ansible Galaxy and download some collections. In these community collections, a lot of these collections are going to include, you might get something for monitoring or installing Cisco's, or configuring and administering Cisco servers or Windows servers. In this case, there's a collection out there that includes a Flatpak module, just like DNF, and then it's going to be a little more intelligent, so that when you install like GIMP or anything else with Flatpak, it's going to see, okay, this was already installed, I did nothing. But that's beyond the scope of this demo. I'm just going to use the basic command module that's built in. So after we installed the repository, a FlatHub repository, just like a DNF repository, but it's for FlatHub, I am going to grab one of the programs from that repository and install it. It's called GIMP. It's a graphics editor. So now that we went through the YAML file, which is our playbook. I am going to run that playbook. I am going to grab my become password from the vault. I'm going to prompt for the vault password. Okay, so now I am running. I ran through the first task. I installed Flatpak. The second task went pretty fast as well. It added my Flathub repository, which has numerous programs in, one including GIMP. Now I'm to the point where now I am installing GIMP, which is going to be like Adobe for Linux. It's a very powerful graphics manipulation program. And while that's running, let's take a look again at the README file. And the last step that I'm not going to do is show you how to run this. I'm not going to demo it running the same playbook without prompting for the vault password. This shows you how to secure the vault password and set it up so that you don't even have to prompt for that. You can do that if you want, but let's log in and see if GIMP was installed properly and it does in fact work. That's pretty important. I want to make sure it works. So here's my GIMP software. Let's launch it. Looks like it's going okay. There you go. My graphics editor is now installed on my Red Hat Enterprise Linux platform. Hopefully this gives you an idea on how to get quick start with Ansible. There's a lot more stuff to learn, but hopefully this gets you up and running. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.